30 Zen stories from the lives of Zen masters to enlighten your wisdom. Welcome back everyone to Mind Podcast. Zen is a way of life, a pure stream in the mixed world, and a magical light in the mundane world. Experience life with a Zen mind, discovering genuine beauty in life with a Bodhi mind, a Prajna heart, and our Zen spirit. Life is Zen. We must understand the Zen path in life. Leaving the mundane world to seek Zen and worship Buddha is like fishing with a rotten stick, impossible to attain enlightenment. As the sixth patriarch, Zen master Huineng said, "The Bodhi tree is not a real tree. The bright mirror is not a stand. Originally, there is not a single thing. Where can dust alight? Bodhi is the mind. Worldly dust arises from life. Using Zen wisdom to sweep away, the world will naturally become peaceful and pure. People's hearts often lose their pure and straightforward nature when they are restless. If all thoughts and distractions do not arise, sitting quietly, focusing the mind, all thoughts will naturally disappear with the white clouds in the sky. With the pattering raindrops, the soul feels cleansed. Listening to the chirping of birds brings a sense of peace. Watching petals fly makes the heart radiant. Thus, in any place there is true wonder, and everything contains real mysteries. As long as the mind can be pure and calm, everything in life can create infinite beauty. Making people happy, that is, the mind sets Bodhi into clarity. Sitting quietly, focusing the mind, the world is empty. Living in a bustling city, if you have the fortune to enter the world of Zen, you will discover that Zen is a high wisdom to understand life, an essence to attain enlightenment, and a door to liberate the soul, helping us find the lost garden of joy within. Zen is also a wonderful medicine to treat the agitation of modern human souls. Facing difficulties in work with a Zen mindset, bringing Zen wisdom into work can break the ego and rise above oneself. Facing busy work, complex markets, and ever-changing human relationships, just having a Zen heart, faith, love, and sincerity is enough to bear them. Therefore, bringing the Zen spirit, Zen wisdom into life and work will elevate life and work to a higher realm, making your spiritual life richer, material life more elegant, moral life more fulfilled, and emotional life purer, with more harmonious human relationships. Reading and enjoying small stories in the classical Zen forest will help you grasp the charm of Zen's unique thought in a natural and comfortable perception, helping you understand that although Zen is profound, its form is very simple and lively, without needing words to go straight into the heart. Each story in the book fully reflects Zen wisdom, Buddhist classics containing countless true meanings of life. Truly a good book for life's enlightenment. 1. Feeding the hawk with flesh. Once, the Buddha was out and encountered a hungry hawk chasing a poor dove. The dove pleaded with the hawk, "Please spare me. You are looking for food. Let me go for now. I am running for my life. I only have one." The hawk replied, "I have never heard such words, but I am too hungry. If I don't eat you, I can't survive. It's not easy for anyone in this world to live. If I weren't desperate, I wouldn't chase you like this." The Buddha, moved by compassion, caught the dove and hid it in his robe. The hawk, furious, reasoned with the Buddha. "Buddha, you are greatly compassionate, saving this dove's life, but will you heartlessly let me die of hunger?" The Buddha said, "I cannot bear to let you harm this innocent dove, nor can I let you starve to death. If I do not enter hell, who will?" Therefore, the Buddha took out a small scale, placed the dove on one side, and a piece of flesh cut from his own body on the other side. The dove seemed small, but no matter how much flesh the Buddha cut, it never balanced the scale. When the Buddha cut the last piece of flesh from his body, the scale finally balanced. The heavens and the earth changed colors, and the true Buddha descended to the world. 2. The 3 realms of Zen. Zen masters divide the realm of enlightenment into 3 levels. The first level is fallen leaves fill the empty mountain, where to find the path, indicating the suffering of searching for the essence of Zen without success. The second level is the empty mountain has no one, water flows, flowers bloom, indicating the state of having broken through attachments but not yet attaining enlightenment. The third level is the eternal emptiness, one stroke of the wind and moon, indicating achieving eternity in an instant, free and unrestrained. The 3 poems Before Zen, During Zen, and After Enlightenment by Sudompo can illustrate these levels. The state before Zen is, looking horizontally makes it a peak, viewing from afar each height different, unaware of Mount Lu's true face, just because I'm in the mountain. The realization during Zen is, Mount Lu in mist and rain, Zhejiang tides, the regret of not visiting them sooner. When back, there's nothing special. Mount Lu in mist and rain, Zhejiang tides. The state after enlightenment is, the sound of the stream is all the wide tongue, the colors of the mountains are all the pure body. At night, 84,000 songs of the past, how can I forget them? Zen master Qingyuan Weishan from the Song dynasty frankly said, 30 years ago, before I practiced Zen, I saw mountains as mountains and waters as waters. Later, I met with knowledge, had some insight, and saw mountains not as mountains, waters not as waters. Now, I found a place to rest, seeing mountains only as mountains and waters only as waters. Seeing mountains as mountains and waters as waters is being attached to the external world. Seeing mountains not as mountains, waters not as waters is negating the world, being attached to Buddhist teachings. Seeing mountains only as mountains, waters only as waters again is thoroughly liberated from the constraints of Buddhist teachings, negating the attachment to Buddhist teachings. This is true liberation, understanding the true meaning of Buddhism. 3 Buddhas talk on horses. One day, Buddha Shakyamuni was sitting in the Truklam monastery in Vunza city. The disciples, having returned from their alms rounds, looked majestic and serene. They quietly approached the lake, washed the dust from their feet, then sat upright on their seats, waiting for the Buddha's discourse. The Buddha, sitting in the diamond posture, calmly said, "There are 4 types of horses in the world. The first is the excellent horse. When its master places a saddle on it and a bridle on its head, it can run 1,000 miles a day, as swift as a shooting star. Particularly precious is that when the master raises the whip, it understands its master's intention, adjusting its speed and movements accurately without any delay. This clearly shows the superior qualities of the first type of horse. The second type is a good horse. When the master raises the whip, it cannot react immediately upon seeing the shadow of the whip. But when the whip touches the tip of its tail, it understands the master's intention and runs swiftly. It is also a good horse, quick to respond and strong in movement. The third type is an ordinary horse. No matter how many times the master raises the whip, it neither reacts to the shadow of the whip nor to the whip hitting its body. It only begins to sense and follow the master's command when the whip strikes its flesh painfully. This is the ordinary horse that realizes late. The fourth type is the poor horse. When the master raises the whip, it pays no attention to the whip hitting its body, remaining unaware. Only when the master is enraged does it finally wake up and run wildly. This is the ignorant and inferior horse, which cannot be educated. The Buddha paused, gazing kindly at his disciples. Seeing their focused expressions, he continued with a gentle and solemn voice, "Disciples, these 4 types of horses are like the 4 types of sentient beings. The first type of person hears about the impermanence and changes in the world, the conditions of life and death, and can immediately awaken, striving diligently to create a new life. Like the excellent horse, that upon seeing the shadow of the whip, knows to run forward without waiting for the whip to strike its body, avoiding the regret of a lost life. The second type of person observes the phenomena of blooming and withering flowers, the waxing and waning of the moon, the formation, decline, and change of life, and can timely awaken themselves, not daring to be lazy. Like the good horse that knows to run when the whip touches its skin and hair. The third type of person witnesses the death and destruction of their relatives and friends, the hardships and sufferings of life, and only then begins to fear and treat life with respect. Like the ordinary horse that awakens only after physical pain. The fourth type of person, when afflicted by illness, with their body breaking down like a candle in the wind, regrets not having strived earlier, thus missing the journey of life. Like the poor horse that realizes to run only after experiencing deep pain. But all these realizations come too late. The disciples, now enlightened, closed their eyes in meditation, reflecting deeply on the nature of sentient beings. Zen wisdom. If the mind changes, the attitude changes. If the attitude changes, habits change. If habits change, character changes. If character changes, life changes. 4 bodhisattvas also kill. A young monk asked an elder monk, "Do bodhisattvas kill?" In his mind, he thought, the master will surely answer that they don't kill. How could a bodhisattva break the precept of killing? Unexpectedly, the elder monk solemnly replied, they do. Bodhisattvas often kill without tiring. Why? The young monk's eyes widened and he leaned forward as if hearing something from another world. How can bodhisattvas kill, and even often kill? To save sentient beings and subdue demons and ghosts, the elder monk said calmly. What? Wouldn't that mean bodhisattvas are breaking a great precept? The young monk asked, confused. Breaking the precept yet not breaking it, the elder monk insisted. Breaking the precept is due to the act of killing, a form of breaking the precept. Not breaking the precept is because the bodhisattva has no intention of killing in their heart, thus aligning with the spirit of the precept. What intention does a bodhisattva have when killing? The young monk asked curiously. When a bodhisattva kills, their intention is to save harmed beings from suffering, to rescue malevolent spirits harming people from eternal torment, the elder monk explained. Do bodhisattvas also go to hell for killing? The young monk probed further. Bodhisattvas often go to hell, the elder monk replied. Why? The young monk still didn't understand. Bodhisattvas never rest from saving sentient beings, so subduing demons and ghosts never ceases. How could they not often go to hell? The elder monk explained. If bodhisattvas know they will go to hell, why do they still kill? The young monk was even more puzzled. That is the fundamental spirit of a bodhisattva, the elder monk said solemnly. To save sentient beings, if I do not enter hell, who will? Zen wisdom. Responsibility is an essential condition for a person to succeed in society and is a very important quality in character. If I do not enter hell, who will? This is the responsibility of a bodhisattva towards the multitude of sentient beings. 5 Mind and circumstances, whether one is good or evil. A highly enlightened monk told his disciples a story about an elephant, serving as a great teacher, providing valuable guidance and liberating one from evil paths. Once upon a time, there was an Indian king who raised an elephant. It was strong, brave, and fierce, capable of defeating enemy forces on the battlefield. When executing criminals, it would trample them to death as commanded. One day, a fire broke out and the elephant's stable burned down, forcing it to move to a new location. Near its new home was a temple where monks often recited scriptures, including the phrase, "Those who do good deeds go to heaven, those who commit evil deeds fall into the abyss." The elephant, hearing this every day, was deeply moved and gradually became gentle, even developing a compassionate heart. One day, the king ordered the elephant to execute a serious criminal. When the criminal was brought before the elephant, it merely nudged him lightly with its trunk and then walked away. From then on, every criminal brought to it was treated the same way. The king, seeing this, became furious and summoned his ministers to find out why. The ministers discussed and concluded that the elephant, living near the temple, must have been influenced by the teachings of Buddhism, which sparked its compassion. The king agreed and decided to move the elephant near a slaughterhouse so it would witness daily scenes of killing. As expected, the elephant gradually reverted to its former aggressive nature, becoming more ferocious with each passing day. Humans, like the elephant, are influenced by their environment. Pursuing good teachers and listening to Buddhist teachings is highly beneficial. If one encounters evil and misguided teachings, they will remain trapped in the 3 evil paths and never escape. However, with a good teacher and righteous friends, one can be guided away from evil and achieve great benefits. Zen wisdom, good and evil, like and unlike, humans possess both qualities. Living in a fragrant orchid room, one doesn't smell its fragrance, and living in a fish market, one doesn't notice its stench. The environment greatly influences one's inherent nature. 6 Enlightenment from within. A devotee asked Zen Master Voduk, why does the same heart have different capacities for breadth and narrowness? The Zen master didn't answer directly but told the devotee, close your eyes and imagine building a wall. The devotee closed his eyes and thought of a wall. The devotee said, the wall is built. The Zen master said, now close your eyes again and imagine a single hair. The devotee followed and imagined a hair. The devotee said the hair is created. The Zen master asked, when you built the wall, did you use only your heart or did you borrow someone else's heart? The devotee replied, I used only my heart. The Zen master continued, when you created the hair, did you use all your heart or just a part of it? The devotee replied, I used all my heart. The Zen master explained, you use the same heart to build a large wall and to create a small hair, which shows that your heart can be both large and small. The human heart can be as vast as the ocean or as small as a crevice. The world of Zen can encompass all of heaven and earth, and humans have within them a treasure trove of Zen wisdom. By applying this wisdom, one can purify their heart and attain profound enlightenment. Zen wisdom, the mind is inherently vast and limitless. Enlightenment comes from within. The larger the realization, the larger the heart, and vice versa. Gradual enlightenment through Zen leads to ultimate understanding. 7. The Man with 4 Wives. Once at a Dharma assembly, Shakyamuni Buddha told a story. There was a wealthy merchant who had 4 wives. The first wife was clever and lovable, always by his side. The second wife was beautiful and obtained through conquest. The third wife managed household affairs, providing him with a stable life. The fourth wife worked hard, often neglected by her husband. One day, the merchant decided to go on a long journey and wanted to take one wife with him. He told his 4 wives his decision. The first wife said, you go alone, I don't want to go. The second wife said, you forced me to marry you, I don't want to go. The third wife said, although I am your wife, I won't endure the hardships of travel. I'll escort you to the city outskirts at most. The fourth wife said, as your wife, I'll follow you wherever you go. Thus, the merchant set off with the fourth wife. Buddha concluded, this merchant represents each of you. Everyone immediately understood. The first wife symbolizes the physical body, which leaves upon death. The second wife represents wealth, which cannot be taken to the next life. The third wife symbolizes one's spouse, who parts ways after death. The fourth wife represents the true self, often forgotten but always accompanying one. Zen wisdom, coming from emptiness, returning to emptiness, only the true self remains a lifelong companion. 8. The Lesson of Pears. During the Mid-Autumn Festival, the abbot gave a bag of pears from the offerings to monks A and B. He told monk A, these pears still have some unripe ones. Wait 10 to 15 days before eating them. To monk B, he said, these pears have been on the altar for many days. Eat them quickly before they spoil. When monk A waited to eat his pears, they had all rotted. Monk B ate his pears immediately, finding them very astringent. Later, the abbot asked about the taste of their pears, and both monks truthfully reported their experiences. The abbot told monk A, it seems that some things cannot be delayed. Regardless of ripeness or astringency, they must be used in time, or you'll regret it later. To monk B, he said, it seems that some things cannot be rushed. Waiting a while might yield better results. The same pears, deliberately managed by the abbot, led to 2 completely different outcomes, demonstrating Zen wisdom. Zen wisdom, attitude and approach to life determine one's destiny. Different thoughts and actions under the same conditions can yield vastly different results. 9. Polishing a brick into a mirror. In the Tang dynasty, Zen master Huairang followed Huineng for 15 years and later went to Nanyue to promote Zen Buddhism. Among his disciples, the most famous was Mazu Daoyi, who was the only disciple among 6 who received direct transmission. Mazu had been with Huairang for several years but hadn't shown significant enlightenment in Zen. He spent all his time practicing sitting meditation. One day, Huairang asked him, why do you sit in meditation all day? Mazu replied, I want to become a Buddha. Huairang laughed, picked up a brick, and started polishing it on a stone. Mazu asked, Master, what are you doing? Huairang replied, I am polishing this brick to make a mirror. Mazu said, how can you make a mirror by polishing a brick? Huairang answered, if a brick cannot be polished into a mirror, how can sitting meditation make you a Buddha? Mazu was perplexed. Huairang continued, if someone is driving a cart and the cart does not move, should he whip the cart or the ox? Mazu could not answer. Huairang then said, if you learn sitting meditation, Zen is not about sitting or lying down. If you learn to sit as a Buddha, the Buddha has no fixed form. You should not cling to the form of sitting. If you cling to the form of sitting, it is contrary to the path. Upon hearing Huairang's teachings, Mazu was truly enlightened. He then left Huairang, became the abbot in Jiangxi, continued the teachings of Zen master Huineng and became a significant figure in the history of Southern Zen after the sixth patriarch Huineng. Zen wisdom. What is Zen? Zen is oneself, a way of life and practical application. Only by training body and mind in real-life practice does the spirit naturally elevate, and with the maturation of time and conditions, one naturally attains enlightenment. 10. Even the Buddha has suffering. Sincere practitioners at home are devout believers. They practice worldly methods, which are convenient but without a teacher's guidance. They rely solely on scriptures as their guide. Thus, for ordinary people, it is not easy to achieve enlightenment, and they often fall into states of distress, not knowing whether this arises from compassion or their disposition, which is precisely suffering arising from suffering. One day, a devotee asked Zen Master Zhaozhou, "Does the Buddha have suffering?" Zen Master Zhaozhou replied, "Yes." The devotee, puzzled, asked, "The Buddha is enlightened. How can he have suffering?" Zen Master Zhaozhou replied, "Because you have not attained enlightenment." The devotee asked again, "If I attain enlightenment, does the Buddha still have suffering?" Zen Master Zhaozhou replied, "Yes." The devotee was even more confused, saying, "If I am enlightened, why does the Buddha still have suffering?" Zen Master Zhaozhou replied, "Because there are still sentient beings." The devotee, still not understanding, said, "Sentient beings obviously cannot all be saved, so will the Buddha always remain in suffering?" Zen Master Zhaozhou replied, "Once transcended, there is no suffering." The devotee finally asked, "If sentient beings cannot all be saved, why does the Buddha not suffer anymore?" Zen Master Zhaozhou replied, "Because in the Buddha's true nature, all sentient beings are already saved. The suffering of sentient beings arises from nameless delusions, while the suffering of the Buddha arises from compassion. In terms of human nature, the Buddha does not suffer. In terms of compassion, the Buddha is the one who suffers." Zen wisdom. Even the Buddha suffers, let alone us ordinary people. Suffering in life naturally fades with a smile. 11. Following nature. In the Zen monastery, the grass had withered and turned yellow. A young monk saw this and said to his master, "Master, let's sow some grass seeds. This lawn looks terrible." The master replied, "Don't rush, you can sow any time, no need to hurry, follow the timing." During the Mid-Autumn festival, the master bought grass seeds. The young monk said, "Let's go and scatter the seeds." Excited, the young monk scattered the seeds. Suddenly, the wind picked up, and the seeds flew everywhere. The young monk exclaimed, "Oh no, all the seeds are being blown away." The master said, "If they're blown away, then they're gone. If they're scattered, they might not sprout either. Let it be." After the seeds were scattered, many sparrows came to pick the plump seeds from the ground. The young monk saw this and quickly said, "Oh no, the birds are eating all the seeds." The master said, "It's okay, the birds won't eat them all. Next year there will be new grass. Let it be." That night, it rained heavily. The young monk couldn't sleep, worried that the rain would wash away all the seeds. The next morning he ran out to check and found that the seeds were gone. He rushed to the Zen room and said, "Master, the rain last night washed away all the seeds. What should we do now?" The master calmly replied, "Don't worry, the seeds will sprout wherever they are carried. Let it be." Not long after, many grass shoots sprouted from the ground. Even in corners where no seeds were sown, fresh green shoots grew. The young monk excitedly told the master, "Master, the grass we planted has grown." The master nodded and said, "Rejoice." Practicing Zen is about maintaining a mind of unknowing when worshiping the Buddha, reciting scriptures, and sitting in meditation. This is the true practice of Zen. When doing other tasks, just do them. When driving, drive with full attention. Stop at red lights, go at green lights. When eating, just eat. When working, just work. Follow the natural course of things without forcing them. Gradually, the mind will naturally become clear. Zen wisdom. Zen is miraculous. When applied in life, it flourishes naturally, unburdened by desires and attachments, full of vitality everywhere. Therefore, follow nature, do not force anything, and you will be rewarded. 12. The tiger must bow its head before pouncing. The character of a Zen practitioner has an aspect of pride. They sometimes stand tall and mighty like a dragon or a tiger, but sometimes they are extremely humble, like a dragon bowing or a tiger lowering its head. This demonstrates that they know when to advance and when to retreat. when to be high and when to be low, making them adaptable and appropriate in any situation. Dragons are spiritual creatures, and tigers are the kings of beasts. Zen practitioners are the sages of humanity. Using retreat as a form of advancement, humility as a strength, brings great benefits. At the Longhu Temple, the students were copying a painting of a dragon and a tiger fighting on a wall outside the temple. In the painting, the dragon was coiling on the clouds and the tiger was poised on the mountain, ready to pounce. Despite repeated corrections, the posture in the painting seemed lacking. Fortunately, Zen Master Voduk returned from outside and the students asked him to evaluate the painting. After viewing it, Master Voduk said, "The appearance of the dragon and tiger is well drawn, but do you understand their characteristics? Before a dragon strikes, its head must pull back. Before a tiger pounces, its head naturally lowers. The greater the dragon's backward curve, the closer the tiger's head should be to the ground. This way they can strike swiftly and leap high." The master then explained that the dragon's head was drawn too forward and the tiger's head too high, hence the lack of dynamism in the painting. Using this as an opportunity to teach, Master Voduk said, "The principles of being human, dealing with the world, practicing Zen, and seeking the path are the same. After preparing to retreat a step, one can advance further. After being humble and alert, one can climb higher." A student didn't understand and asked, "Master, how can someone falling behind advance forward? How can humility lead to greatness?" Zen Master Voduk seriously replied, "Listen to my Zen poem. Taking the young seedlings, I scatter them across the field. With a bowed head, I see the water in the sky. A pure heart and mind embody the path. Retreating is the way to advance." Can you understand its meaning? The students finally grasped the lesson. Zen wisdom. To deliver a powerful punch, first withdraw your hand. Retreating is not stepping back, nor is it a compromise. It is a mature attitude and a choice to progress. Living in the present. There was a young monk whose duty was to sweep fallen leaves in the temple courtyard every morning. Waking up early to sweep the yard was a challenging task, especially during the transition from autumn to winter when the wind would blow and leaves would fall continuously. Each morning it took him a long time to sweep all the leaves, which gave the young monk a constant headache. He pondered and tried to find a way to make his task easier. Eventually, another monk suggested, "Tomorrow before you sweep, shake the trees vigorously so all the leaves will fall at once. Then the next day you won't need to sweep." The young monk thought it was a good idea, so the next morning he woke up early and shook the trees with all his might, ensuring he could sweep up the fallen leaves for both that day and the next. That day, the young monk was very pleased. However, the next morning when he went outside, he found the yard full of leaves again. The old monk approached and said to him, "No matter how hard you try today, leaves will still fall tomorrow." Finally, the young monk understood that there are many things in life that cannot be done in advance. Only by fully living in the present can one have the most genuine attitude towards life. Zen wisdom. The present in Zen is an advanced mindset. Zen in the present, life in the present, living with the present, bewilderment in the present, enlightenment in the present, and from the perception of life, the benefits also occur in the present. 14. The middleman, the middle way. A monk, unable to endure the solitude of the Buddhist life, decided to leave the mountain and return to secular life. Within a month, unable to bear the harsh words of the world, he returned to the mountain. Then, not even a month later, he couldn't stand the solitude again and went back to secular life. This cycle repeated multiple times until the old monk said to him, "You seem not to have faith in the Buddha. Remove your kasaya robe, don't strive to be a layperson either. There is a path between the temple and the worldly life, a pleasant pavilion where you can sell tea. How does that sound?" Thus the man left secular life, got married, and opened a tea shop. The old monk's advice was right. Someone who belongs to neither world can only engage in a middle ground occupation. Zen wisdom. An unstable mind can hardly achieve anything. If one cannot find peace in their heart, they can only handle unstable tasks. 15. The taste of salt. A Zen master had a disciple who often complained and was narrow-minded, thus frequently falling into a state of distress. One day, the master sent the disciple to the market to buy a bag of salt. Upon his return, the master instructed him to put a handful of salt in a glass of water and drink it all at once. "How does it taste?" the master asked. "Bitter and salty," the disciple replied with a grimace. Next, the master took the disciple to a lake, instructed him to dump the entire bag of salt into the lake, and then said, "Now taste the water from the lake." The disciple leaned over, scooped some water and drank. "How does it taste?" the master asked. "Fresh and sweet," the disciple replied. "Do you taste the salt now?" the master asked. "No," the disciple replied. The master nodded and smiled, saying to the disciple, "The suffering in life is like salt. Its bitterness depends on the container it is in. Do you want to be a glass of water or a lake? Everyone possesses Buddha nature. It's just difficult to recognize it. When we become aware and live with a strong and peaceful mind, we too can become Buddhas." Zen wisdom. To live a happy life, one must have fewer worries. To have fewer worries, one must have a broad mind, learn to treat oneself well, and be generous with others. This creates a vast and open life. Life should be leisurely and free, naturally at ease. 16. Collecting leaves. Zen master Dingzhou and his novice were walking through the courtyard when a gust of wind blew, causing many leaves to fall. The Zen master bent down to pick up each leaf and put it in his bag. The novice, observing this, said, "Master, there's no need to pick them up. We have to sweep the yard tomorrow anyway." The Zen master disagreed and said, "You can't say that. Sweeping doesn't necessarily mean it will be completely clean. By picking up one more leaf, the ground will be cleaner by that much." The novice continued, "Master, so many leaves are falling. As you pick up the ones in front, more fall behind. How can you possibly pick them all up?" The Zen master, still picking up leaves, replied, "Leaves not only fall to the ground, they also fall into our hearts. By picking up the leaves in our hearts, eventually, we will be rid of them all." Hearing this, the novice finally understood what it means to live the life of a Zen practitioner. The Zen master's act of picking up leaves symbolizes clearing away the troubles and delusions in our hearts. In the vast world, countless leaves fall, just as countless troubles arise. We must constantly clear away the leaves in our hearts, so that with each leaf less, we become a little bit cleaner. Similarly, Buddha had a disciple named Choli Pantaka, who was incredibly dull and couldn't understand even a single verse. Reluctantly, Buddha asked what he knew. He said he knew how to sweep the yard, so Buddha taught him to chant "sweep away dust" while sweeping. As he chanted, he began to question what it meant to clean the dirt in his heart. Through self-awareness, Choli Pantaka gradually became wise and enlightened. Zen wisdom. Buddha said everything is empty. Zen can be considered another name for mind, and mind is the true nature, not increased in Buddha, not decreased in the ordinary person. 17. The Zen master airs the sutras. Zen master Yi Hu, while at his hometown on Yue Mountain, saw a group of believers climbing the mountain. The temple on Ti Mountain was airing the sutras. According to legend, when the sutras are aired, if a breeze blows through, it can dispel bad luck and increase intelligence. Therefore, many people flock to the mountain to catch this beneficial wind. Zen master Yi Hu, upon learning this, said, "I want to air the sutras too." He then opened his chest and lay on the grass, sunbathing. Many believers on their way up the mountain found this behavior strange and unrefined. The monks from the mountain temple came down and advised him not to lose his dignity like that. Yi Hu seriously explained, "The sutras you are airing are dead, will get moth-eaten, and can't function. The sutras I am airing are alive, can preach, work, and eat. Intelligent people should know which sutras are truly valuable." Zen wisdom. Seeking blessings and expanding wisdom requires knowing the right approach. Meditating and entering Buddha's wisdom requires understanding the essentials. Everything must start from the mind. Practicing without addressing the root is futile. The valuable sutras are not printed on paper, but imprinted in the heart, where they give birth to all teachings. 18. The ascetic monk. Zen masters are great sages who contemplate life deeply. Their spiritual world is extremely rich, but their material life is very simple. In the record of monastic conduct, the ascetic practices of high monks of various generations are documented. Venerable Bian Dan ate only nuts throughout his life. Zen master Yongjia did not eat cultivated vegetables, fearing the hoe would kill living beings. Zen Master Huilin wore the same pair of sandals for 20 years, walking barefoot on flat ground. Zen Master Tonghui had only one set of clothes, patching them as needed, regardless of winter or summer. Master Kai Tong distributed all his alms to the poor. While practicing at Buddha Han Cliff in Lushan, Master Xing Ren made friends with wild animals. These animals were very gentle and close to him, showing no fear. Later, he passed away standing upright. Zen Master Hui Shi lived alone in a cave, never accepting dwellings offered by lay people. He ate one meal a day, and the area around his sitting mat was surrounded by dust and grass. His simple clothing could only block the wind. He wore it in winter and hung it on the wall in summer. Zen Master Dao Fa led 2 temples, Xinglei and Xianji, with strict self-discipline. He never accepted invitations, nor did he promise meals. Whatever food he received, he shared with birds and insects. At night, he removed his clothes and meditated, allowing mosquitoes to feast on him. In a state of deep meditation, he saw the shining Buddha Maitreya, illuminating the 3 evil realms, which motivated him to progress further. He often meditated without lying down. Venerable Damai visited Zen Master Mazu. After attaining enlightenment, he retreated to a deep mountain. When someone invited him to serve as an official, he humorously replied, "A lotus in the pond is boundless. The pine and cypress trees bear fruits in abundance." Knowing this place of seclusion, retreating to a humble cottage in the deep woods. Master Fu Shan sat by the roadside reading scriptures with a straw hat beside him for alms. Since the road was remote, few people passed by and he received little. Someone asked him, "Master, why don't you go to busy places in the city for alms?" He replied, "I only need a small amount to sustain life." Zen wisdom. The reason high monks achieve great spiritual accomplishments is closely related to their willingness to endure hardships and completely forsake material enjoyment. You are the Buddha. Zen Master Nanyang Huizhong was the patriarch of the Oxhead School, and Emperor Suzong and Emperor Daizong of the Tang Dynasty both honored him as the national teacher. Emperor Gaozong of Tang once asked him to administer the 5 precepts, and Empress Wu Zetian invited him to the palace to lecture on the main content of the Avatamsaka Sutra. A servant attended Zen Master Nanyang Huizhong for 30 years. The Zen Master, grateful for the servant's devoted service, wanted to repay him by helping him attain enlightenment. One day he called out, "Servant." The servant, thinking there was a task at hand, replied, "Yes, master. What do you need?" The Zen Master responded, "Nothing." A little later, the Zen Master called again, "Servant." The servant replied, "Yes, master. What is it?" The Zen Master again said, "Nothing." After several repetitions, the Zen Master changed his approach and called out, "Buddha, Buddha." The bewildered servant asked, "Master, whom are you calling?" The Zen Master, seeing the servant's confusion, said, "I am calling you." The servant, still not understanding, said, "Master, I am just a servant, not the Buddha." Zen Master Huizhong, seeing that he could not enlighten him this way, sighed and said, "In the future, do not blame me for failing you. It is you who fail yourself." The servant insisted, "Master, no matter what, I am your most faithful servant and will not fail you, so please do not fail me." Huizhong's eyes softened, pondering why some people only respond to calls, act passively, and follow others without awareness. Can't they realize their soul and connect with their true self? Zen Master Huizhong said, "In truth, you have already failed me." Zen wisdom. Zen emphasizes direct acceptance. The so-called mind, Buddha, and sentient beings are not different. All beings are Buddhas. The servant only acknowledged himself as a servant, not daring to accept the name of Buddha. Isn't that too disappointing to Huizhong's good intentions? 20 Dan, a teasing and none. Zen Master Dan Ha read all the 4 books and 5 classics in his youth. On his way to the capital for exams, he encountered a Zen practitioner who pointed out, "How can selecting officials compare to becoming a Buddha?" Dan Ha decided to abandon the official path, pursue Buddhism, and ultimately became a great master. Once, a nun came to ask Zen Master Dan Ha about the way. She asked, "What is the true meaning of the way?" Zen Master Dan Ha said nothing but pointed to the nun's buttocks. The nun's face turned red with both fear and anger, and she scolded, "So, you still have that in your heart?" Dan Ha replied coldly, "It's not that I have it, but that you have it. The way does not depart from humans. Only humans depart from the way." A young monk witnessing this scene went around proclaiming, "My master is a pervert," teasing a young nun seeking the way in front of everyone. Although the young monk's words were true, the old monk rebuked him, saying, "A noble horse is known by its 4 legs, and a common person by their mouth. What do you understand?" The old monk walked away. During the evening class, someone mentioned this story to Zen master Danha. Upon hearing it, Danha bowed to the young monk and shouted, "My Buddha is compassionate. My Buddha is compassionate." The young monk, thinking Danha was crazy, shouted back, "Hey, I'm not the Buddha." Danha said, "I did not mistake you. The person I bowed to is the Buddha, a Buddha in a human form. You not only mistake others but yourself as well." The young monk suddenly realized, the Zen master's heart is like a bodhisattva, but his words are sharp as a knife. He has enlightened me. From now on, I will no longer view things with mundane eyes. Zen wisdom. Within Zen, the hierarchy is highly respected. Only a master of great wisdom and courage like Danha could skillfully use supreme respect to enlighten others. He truly is a divine monk of his era. 21 Withering and flourishing alike. Zen master Medicine Mountain had 2 disciples, one named Cloud Cliff and the other Tao Wu. One day, the Zen master was chanting sutras in the courtyard while the 2 disciples sat beside him. The Zen master saw a lush tree, while the trees on either side were withered. He asked Tao Wu first, "Which tree is better, the withered or the flourishing one?" Tao Wu replied, "The flourishing tree is better." The Zen master then asked Cloud Cliff, "Which tree is better, the withered or the flourishing one?" Cloud Cliff replied, "The withered tree is better." Just then, a servant named Cow walked by, and the Zen master asked him the same question, "Which tree is better, the withered or the flourishing one?" The servant replied, "The tree withers because it should wither, the tree flourishes because it should flourish." The Zen master said, "The flourishing tree has its reason for flourishing. The withered tree has its reason for withering." We often discuss right and wrong, good and bad, advantages and disadvantages in the human world. These are all common knowledge, stopping at the level of differences. This servant can understand the non-discriminatory nature of things. So it is said, "The withered because it withers, the flourishing because it flourishes." The world without discrimination is the true world. The various forms and appearances we perceive are all illusory, changing and unreal. Even the concepts of good and evil we cling to are not absolute. For example, if we punch someone without reason, that punch is evil. If we warn someone kindly from behind, that punch becomes good. An evil punch can become good, showing that good and evil have no inherent nature. In reality, the punch has no inherent good or evil. All of these are just our distinctions and attachments to things. Zen wisdom. The same question can have 4 different answers. Flourishing indicates an enthusiastic and progressive personality. Withered indicates purity and simplicity. Withered because it withers, flourishing because it flourishes suggests following nature. Everything depends on conditions. 22 One Move, One Stillness. The Ha Mountain Temple in Nanjing, known as the Holy Land of the 6 Dynasties in the Heavenly Buddha Tao Field, has the largest project of carving 1,000 Buddha statues. On the highest peak, inaccessible to climbers, stands a lifelike statue of the Buddha. Passers-by at the foot of the mountain can't help but look up in awe. One year, a devotee visiting the Ha Mountain saw the Buddha statue at the peak and asked Zen Master Trak Then, the guide, "Old Zen Master, what is the name of that Buddha statue?" Zen Master Trak Then replied, "Oh, that Buddha statue is called the Flying Buddha." The Zen Master's implication was that since the mountain is so high that no one could climb up to carve it, the statue must have flown in from elsewhere. The curious devotee asked, "If it flew here, why hasn't it flown away?" Zen Master Trak then said, "One move is not as good as one stillness." The devotee continued, "Why does it remain still here?" Zen Master Trak then answered, "Since it has come, it stays." Humans in this restless world cannot find a moment of peace. Even in sleep, our consciousness is active, dreaming. The state of stillness is vast and equal. Life in stillness is peaceful and abundant. Zen wisdom. The casual answers of Zen Master Trak then suggest many things. One move is not as good as one stillness, indicating a wonderful state of being. Since it has come, it stays, signifying a profound affirmation of life. 23 The great universe as one Zen bed. The Tang Dynasty Zen master Zhaozhou Kongshan often stayed at Guanyin Temple in Zhao County and was known as Old Buddha Zhaozhou because of his love for tea. Before starting a conversation, he would often say, "Have some tea." Thus, the phrase "have some tea" became a Zen saying. One day, King Zhao visited Zen master Zhaozhou Kongshan. At that time, the Zen master was lying in bed. He spoke to the king from his bed, saying, "Your Majesty, although you have come to visit me, I am too weak to get out of bed to greet you. Please do not be offended." King Zhao did not take offense. Instead, he respected the Zen master even more. The next day, the king sent a general to present gifts to Zhaozhou. This time, the Zen master personally went to the door to welcome him. The disciples were puzzled and asked Zhaozhou why he treated the guests differently. The Zen master explained, "There are 3 levels of hospitality. For superior guests, I greet them with my true self without leaving my bed. For average guests, I go to the reception room and greet them with courtesy. For inferior guests, I go to the door to meet them with worldly manners." Later, when Su Dongpo visited Zen master Fo Yin, he first wrote a letter to the Zen master, stating that he understood the subtlety of Zen, and that Zen master Fo Yin should not need to come out to greet him, just as Zhaozhou did not greet King Zhao. However, when the day came, Zen master Fo Yin ran out of the temple to greet him. Su Dongpo thought he had found an opportunity to mock the Zen master and said, "Your hospitality is not as carefree as Zen master Zhaozhou. I told you not to come out, yet you still went to the trouble of greeting me from afar." Zen master Fo Yin responded with a verse. "Zhaozhou in the past lacked humility, did not leave the mountain to greet King Zhao. Now, though you see me come out to greet you, I am still resting on the great Zen bed of the universe." He meant that while Zhaozhou did not get out of bed to greet King Zhao, it was because he was not humble enough, not because of a higher state. Zen master Fo Yin, on the other hand, could come out to greet Su Dongpo without leaving his state of Zen. As the entire universe is his Zen bed, what Su Dongpo perceived was just the physical bed seen with mortal eyes, whereas Zen master Fo Yin's bed was the great Zen bed of the Dharma realm. Zen wisdom. The mind creates the scene, and objects are defined by us. Some say Zen is wisdom, some say Zen is an attitude towards life, some say Zen is philosophy, while others say Zen is nothing or everything. In essence, Zen is a Zen heart. 24 Not weaving a single inch. Nunchuanji from Wenzhou used to practice Zen meditation in a cave on Mount Dai. One day, she sighed, "The Dharma nature is truly clear and bright, neither coming nor going. Bored with the hustle and bustle, I went to a quiet place, but how can this be considered enlightenment?" So she went to visit Zen master Xuefeng. Xuefeng asked, "Where did you come from?" Xuanji replied, "From Mount Dai." Xuefeng smiled and asked, "Has the sun risen?" implying whether she had realized any truth. Xuanji thought Xuefeng was testing her and retorted, "If the sun had risen, it would have melted Xuefeng." Xuefeng laughed and asked, "What's your name?" "Xuanji," she replied. Seeing her obstinacy, Xuefeng tried to remind her and asked, "As the weaver of mysteries, how much cloth can you weave each day?" Xuanji arrogantly replied, "Not even a single inch." Xuefeng, seeing her stubbornness, sighed, "I use the mystery to remind you, yet you argue with me. How many spider webs do you have in your belly?" Xuanji, thinking she had won, bowed and left. As she walked away, Xuefeng called out, "Your kasaya is dragging on the ground." Xuanji quickly turned around to check, but her kasaya was neatly on her shoulder. She heard Xuefeng laugh and say, "Not weaving a single inch." Zen wisdom. Not weaving a single inch suggests that Zen is about living a simple life. 25 Linju kicking the clean pot. Zen master Sima wanted to appoint a new abbot for Mount Daiwei. He rang the bell to gather all the monks and announced, "Whoever can answer my question excellently in front of everyone will become the abbot of Mount Daiwei. Everyone has a chance, but it depends on your ability." Zen master Sima held up a clean pot and asked, "Isn't this a clean pot? What else can it be called?" The monks scratched their heads, looking at each other. Clearly, it was a clean pot, but what else could it be called? The monastery's kitchen monk, who usually did menial tasks, stepped forward and said, "Let me try." Everyone laughed, thinking, "A cook wants to try." Zen master Sima asked, "What's your name?" The monk calmly replied, "Lingyu." Lingyu took the clean pot, placed it on the ground, kicked it against the wall, and walked away. Zen Master Sima was delighted and said, "That is indeed the abbot of Mount Daiwei. If it is not a clean pot, then just kick it away. Why say more?" The monks realized the profound Zen teaching in Lingyu's actions and were thoroughly convinced. Later, Lingyu became the abbot of Mount Daiwei and founded the Weiyang School, one of the 5 great Zen schools in China. Zen wisdom. Many difficult problems in life can be resolved simply. If it is not what you want, just kick it away. Why hesitate? 26 Weed Control Method. The disciples gathered around the Zen master, waiting for him to reveal the secrets of life in the universe. The Zen master remained silent with his eyes closed. Suddenly, he asked the disciples, "How can we eradicate the weeds in a vast, barren field?" The disciples were taken aback by such a simple question. One disciple said, "Use a hoe to dig up the weeds." The Zen master smiled. Another disciple said, "Burn the weeds and they will be eradicated." The Zen master nodded. A third disciple said, "Sprinkle lime on the weeds to kill them." The Zen master still smiled. The fourth disciple said, "Their methods are all wrong. To eradicate the weeds completely, you must pull them up by the roots." After the disciples had spoken, the Zen master said, "You all have good answers. Starting tomorrow, each of you will divide the field into plots and use your methods to eradicate the weeds. We will meet here again this time next year." A year later, the disciples gathered early. The once overgrown field was now a bright yellow garden of crops. The disciples had tried all methods over the past year but couldn't eradicate the weeds completely. In the end, only by planting crops on the weedy land did they achieve this result. The disciples sat around the garden. The crops were ripe, but the Zen master had already passed away. This was his last lesson. To eradicate weeds in a barren field, there is only one way. Plant crops. To prevent your soul from being barren, the only way is to cultivate virtue. Zen wisdom. Cultivation is the practice of the mind. If the east wind does not prevail over the west wind, then the west wind prevails over the east wind. 27 Good and evil are relative. A novice monk, filled with doubts, came to ask Zen Master Wu Ming, "Master, you say that learning Buddhism requires the intention to save all sentient beings. If someone is evil and has lost their humanity, should we still save them?" The Zen master did not answer immediately. Instead, he took a brush and drew the character on a piece of paper, but wrote it in reverse, as if it were an imprint on a seal. The master asked, "What is this?" The novice replied, "It's a character, but it's written backward." "What character?" asked the master. "The character I," said the novice. The master then asked, "Does the backward I count as a character?" The novice replied, "No, it doesn't." "If it doesn't count, why did you call it the character I?" asked the master. The novice then changed his mind and said, "Yes, it does count." The master continued, "If it counts as a character, why did you say it's backward?" The novice was bewildered and didn't know how to respond. The Zen master explained, "A character written forward is a character, and a character written backward is also a character. You recognize it as the character I, and then notice it's written backward because in your heart you know the forward I. Conversely, if you were illiterate, even if I wrote it backward, you wouldn't recognize it. You might think the forward I is written backward when you encounter it later." The master continued, "In the same way, a good person is a person, and a bad person is also a person. The most important thing is to recognize the nature of a person. Thus, when you encounter a bad person, you can still see their good and evil traits and appeal to their true nature. Once this nature is illuminated, it is not difficult to save them. Good people should be saved, but evil people need it even more. The more impure the water, the more likely a pure lotus will bloom. Putting down the knife and becoming a Buddha means good and evil are just thoughts." Zen wisdom. Zen art is both concrete and abstract, both realistic and sublime, both existing and transcending. Zen is full of the spirit of equality, reflecting the equal nature of the universe and all phenomena and principles. 28 Enlightenment through snake slaying. A novice monk came to the Zen master Jichan's dojo to study. Zen master Shichan was hoeing weeds, and just as a snake slithered out from the weeds, the master lifted his hoe and struck it. The novice monk, shocked, said, I've long admired the compassionate spirit of this place, but now I see only a crude person. Zen Master Shichen replied, "Based on what you said, who is crude, you or me?" The novice monk, still upset, asked, "What do you mean by crude?" The Zen Master put down his hoe. The novice monk then asked, "What do you mean by subtle?" The Zen Master lifted his hoe again in a snake-slaying gesture. The novice monk, not understanding, said, "This talk of crude and subtle in your way is incomprehensible." The Zen Master asked, "If you don't understand crude and subtle, where were you when I killed the snake?" The novice monk replied, "Just now." The Zen Master, in a teaching tone, said, "Just now you did not see yourself. Why are you focused on me killing the snake?" Finally, the novice monk realized. In Zen history, there's the story of Nansen killing a cat. Killing is a fundamental precept in Buddhism, and Nansen should not kill. However, this was a profound act of old Buddha Nansen, not to be tarnished by narrow interpretations. Nansen's act of killing the cat was a demonstration to cut through worldly attachments. Similarly, Zen Master Jichan's act of snake slaying was symbolic. The novice monk saw the external act and criticized it as crude, not understanding the inner teaching. This showed he was still caught up in external distinctions and had not yet found himself. Zen wisdom. Learning Zen should not be confined to conceptual understanding. Zen requires cutting through ordinary perceptions. As long as one is attached to external distinctions, one cannot truly see oneself in the moment. 29. Immediate salvation. Shinran Shonin is the most renowned Zen master in the history of Japanese Zen Buddhism. Tanisho, a record of his teachings, is one of the most famous Buddhist works in Japan, translated into many languages. In Tanisho, Shinran Shonin shares his direct experiences, uncompromisingly reflecting on the world. He focused solely on his thoughts and devotion, speaking openly. At the age of 9, Shinran Shonin decided to become a monk and sought ordination from Zen Master Shonin. The master asked, "Why do you want to become a monk at such a young age?" Shinran replied, "Although I am only 9, my parents have passed away. I don't understand why people must die or why I must part from my parents. To understand this, I am determined to become a monk." The Zen master admired his resolve and said, "I understand. I am willing to ordain you, but it is late today. Let's wait until tomorrow morning." Upon hearing this, Shinran was dissatisfied and said, "Master, although you say you will ordain me tomorrow, I am young and cannot guarantee my determination will last until tomorrow. Besides, you are also old and cannot ensure you will still be alive tomorrow morning." Hearing this, the Zen master clapped his hands and joyfully said, "Indeed, you are right. I will ordain you right now." Human life is a continuous accumulation of now. So, why not seize each moment? The past cannot return. The future is uncertain. Only the present can be grasped and utilized. 30. Meeting Buddha, killing Buddha. Monk Yin Feng, a direct disciple of the old Zen master Ma Chu, had many miraculous legends associated with him. Once, while hurrying along the road, he encountered two armies about to clash. Crossing seemed impossible. Yin Feng threw his staff into the air and then rose into the sky himself. The sight of the monk flying stopped the hundreds of thousands of soldiers and horses on both sides. They all stared at Yin Feng in midair. When Yin Feng studied Zen under Ma Chu, the old master decided to test him. One day, Ma Chu saw Yin Feng pushing a cart along a narrow path and intentionally lay down, blocking the way. "Master, old man, get up quickly, or the cart will run over your legs," shouted Yin Feng. Ma Chu replied, "My legs are already stretched out and cannot be pulled back." Yin Feng replied, "The cart has already moved forward and cannot be reversed." With that, Yin Feng pushed the cart over Ma Chu's legs. Ma Chu cried out in pain, his legs covered in blood. Angrily, Ma Chu limped with a stick to the Dharma hall, rang the bell to gather the monks, and shouted, "Which young rascal just ran over my legs? Come forward now." The monks were terrified. It seemed bloodshed was imminent in the Dharma hall. Only Yin Feng, fearless, stepped forward and placed his head under Ma Chu's axe. Ma Chu laughed heartily, threw the axe aside, and said joyfully, "This young man is worth teaching." Ma Chu's outstretched legs were a metaphorical obstacle for Yin Feng to overcome on his Zen path. Pushing the cart over them showed his determination never to retreat, embodying the spirit of meeting Buddha, killing Buddha, meeting patriarchs, killing patriarchs. Matsu then used the axe to further test him, and Yin Fen faced it with fearless resolve, showing his readiness to challenge himself and create new miracles. No wonder the old master laughed heartily. Zen wisdom. A courageous heart provides the backbone of resolve, freeing one from constraints, daring to challenge oneself, and create new miracles. This is the true meaning of meeting Buddha, killing Buddha, meeting patriarchs, killing patriarchs.